What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. Thank you to everybody that watched my review of Friday the 13th Part 1 yesterday. This is currently day 2 of this Friday the 13th marathon where I'm going to review 1 through 12 every day of the week, this first half of October, and then on Friday the 13th, I will do my franchise ranking. But anyways, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about 1981's Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, this movie is most notable, I would say, for having the first appearance of Jason as the killer, and the only appearance of Sackhead Jason, which is a very underrated Jason, in my opinion. But, yeah, let's get right into this plot, which it's not much different than the original movie in a lot of ways. It starts off, starts off with a recap of the first movie, which is like 10 minutes long, and this is actually the shortest movie in the franchise, only 87 minutes long, I believe. So with this recap and everything, once they finally get into the film, if you include the opening credits and the closing credits, like, we don't have much time to go, which, as I was saying yesterday, how much I thought the original dragged, this is kind of a refreshing thing to have a movie that's going to go this type of pace, because like I said, it is pretty much the same movie, but a lot quicker in its pace in a lot of ways, which serves really well for this type of movie, which is something they kind of continue on moving forward. But we meet, first I got to mention we have these first two kids that are just getting directions on a payphone, and I just feel the need to mention this because I found it really funny. I forgot about this, that they get their truck towed and they're chasing after the truck, banging on the window, and the truck driver's just staring straight forward, no fucks given. And I forgot about this scene and just chuckled like, what an asshole. But it turns out to be a ruse with one of the other guys that works there. I think he might be one of the bosses. I think he's one of the older guys, but he's kind of the jokester and everything. But anyways, the real movie, the real meat and potatoes of this starts with the boss of all these counselors, which he's training all of them. They're at a new camp. It's not Camp Crystal Lake, which that's something a lot of people don't realize, maybe a casual viewer, that not many of these actually take place at Camp Crystal Lake. I don't think they go back to Camp Crystal Lake until Part 6, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, we got all the most stereotypical characters. That's kind of a fun thing about these movies. But they're all pretty likable and memorable characters, except for some of the extras, blah, blah, blah. Paul's the boss. What seems to be his girlfriend, which is the other boss, Jenny, who ends up being our final girl. Spoiler alert. I'm sure you've seen this movie if you're watching this. But he goes up and starts talking to her while she's in her car and everything. And you could tell they have a bit of, an interest, and they give a little bit of backstory that's going to matter a bit later in the movie. But seeing how we only get about 75, 80 minutes of this film, it just really starts going into a movie about nothing, like a lot of films end up being. A lot of horror movies end up being that way. The first and maybe second act, not much is really going on. But this leans a little more into the comedy, a little more into the characters. And like I said, most of these characters are pretty likable, and if not, they're memorable, except for the extras in the background. And I was just talking to my buddy today, Nick Baker, one half of the Cream Street Mafia, because we're planning like kind of a trip to like a beach house with all the boys, all the guys getting together next year in August. And this movie kind of made me bring up the idea to him again, because we met up to cut promos for wrestling and all that. But just like them chilling inside the cabin and everything, just playing chess, dancing around, and it just makes me think, it reminds me of like when I rewatch Creepshow, the 4K, like in the Father's Day skit in the beginning. It's like, it must have been so nice to live before cell phones and everything, because everybody's just chilling, just living in the moment, especially when they get their heads cut off by Jason later and everything. But anyways, it's just kind of getting to know these characters. But like I said, they're a lot of fun, so the movie kind of goes along pretty smoothly. They have a nice barbecue the next day. And I really like this scene where Paul is telling like a camp story, which is another thing. I feel like everybody's so jaded these days that you couldn't like sit down and like tell a camp story, like a spooky story at a campfire and scare people. But he tells the story of Jason, which gives backstory for anybody that didn't see the original. But what I love about this is the way he tells the story. He tells it like it's an urban legend, but if you've seen the first one, it's completely true. And they do a little jump scare and scare everybody in the camp. And it gets to the point here where, there's little stuff where the first two campers go to Camp Crystal Lake and get caught by the cop, and get brought back to camp. And I love this scene where the cop's like, "Aren't you going to reprimand these guys?" And Paul tells Jenny like, "Okay, tell them they can't have seconds on dessert tonight." Just fun stuff like that makes you like the characters, and they seem relatable and fun. But it gets to a point one of the nights where Paul talks to some of the campers and everything, like, do you guys want to go out on a night on the town, go up to the bar just for one last time before we really got to get to business and everything, get all the training. So they only got 2 cars, half the people take off, and we pretty much have all our leads here, all the main people ready to get killed off one by one. And the rest of them head off to this bar, which looks really awesome, this casino bar and everything, this poppin'-ass bar, and they're in there having fun and everything. And we get a fun scene where Jenny's talking to Paul, and what was the other guy's name? Ken, I think, the jokester. And she, because they mentioned earlier that she goes to school for children's psychology, and she's kind of breaking down, like, maybe Jason's still alive and, you know, he's mentally scarred, and kind of like looking into the story, and they just laugh it off like, oh yeah, like that's a real thing. Little they know, Jason is coming into town now, and he's already killed off the cop, getting a couple kills leading up, but nothing too important. We get some fun scenes with, I don't remember the guy's name, the guy in the wheelchair. This girl stays behind, she's flirting with him. They're kind of like the boy and girl next door kind of deal. And they're kind of flirting and everything, so we got a little side story there. Another couple goes upstairs to bang in the hammock. We got the hot chick in there, and the movie goes skinny dipping while the pervert's kind of watching her, and he gets strung up like in this bear trap, thinking it was the funny guy that's pulling a prank on him. So this is where we really start getting our kills. Like I said, this movie moves fast. So we get some fun kills where the pervert guy upside down, he gets his throat slit while he's upside down. The hot chick gets killed on an off-screen kind of kill. There's a really sweet kill while they're banging upstairs, the two, where it's kind of like the Kevin Bacon one, but downward. Jason takes this fucking spike, this spear, and goes right through him. Lots of fun stuff here, but probably the best kill in the entire movie, my favorite, like the highlight, is when the dude in the wheelchair goes out, and he just gets hit with a machete straight in the head, and it's pouring rain outside, and he falls backwards all the way down the stairs in a wheelchair, and it's terrible to laugh at, but it's just, it always made me crack up. That sound he makes when he takes the machete in the head, and they like echo it for some reason. Just funny shit to me. And at this point, there goes my light, my damn tripod. We're professional over here. But anyways, Jason's kind of picking them off one by one, and this is maybe the first time we get a really good shot of Sackhead Jason, where the girl that was going to hook up with the dude in the wheelchair goes upstairs. She's looking around because, you know, she's pretty much the last one left at this camp right now. And you think it's going to be the dead bodies under the sheet when she goes to pull them up. But it actually gave me a bit of a jump scare because I haven't seen this one in a couple of years. The way Jason sets up with that Sackhead, which is kind of looks like the dude from the town who dreaded Sundown or whatever, the scarecrow guy, I think. But it's a very scary look. I think it's underrated in the franchise. And Jason's a little more lean in this one, too, so he's a lot quicker. He jumps up, gives her a basic stab, nothing too special. But what's kind of a freaky scene is when Paul and Jenny come back. I don't know what happened to the rest of the campers. I know the goofy guy is looking for an after party, so maybe they took off somewhere else. But they show up and go upstairs. Everyone's gone. There's blood all over the bed. And then when they go downstairs, they're kind of freaking out. And this is when Sackhead Jason hops out and attacks Paul. And it's like he got killed off right there. So Jenny takes off. And this is where we get our final girl chase right here, which is a standard in a lot of these slashers from the 80s. But this is a really good one because Jenny is one of the best final girls in the entire franchise, in my opinion. And it's just a cat and mouse game, running, lots of fun shit. And we get the basic, the fun, find all the dead bodies, which I always found funny in these horror movies back in the day. Like the killer's just going to string up all these bodies all over the place. And bear with me if I'm repeating some stuff from yesterday's review. There's a lot of similarities, obviously, but Jason gives her one hell of a run. And I literally run. I think a lot of people who are casual fans of Friday the 13th kind of think of more the brooding, maybe zombie Jason. He seems to teleport at times, but he's moving nice and slow, walking, never running. But this Jason right here is sprinting full speed after him, and just lots of cool shit of him taking him down, hitting him with the car door, just, I like it like that. The tension, this is where they did it a lot better than the first one, obviously. It's like they're all over this place, and every time you think he's got her or she's hidden enough, he pops up. And this actually gave me 2 jump scares that scared the shit out of me. Like the predictable one when he busts through the window when she's in the bathroom. That one scares the shit out of me. And what's the other one I was thinking? It must have been the one with the sheet. I swear there was a third one then that kind of scared me. But either way, it's effective in this movie. Like I knew it was coming, and I still jumped. And this is where we get the only shot of where Jason lives, too, where we've seen it earlier, but Jenny runs into Jason's shack. He chases after it. She finds, like, the iconic shrine of Mrs. Voorhees' head laying on the table. And as Jason comes in, this is where her child psychology comes into play. She puts the sweater on and tries to look like Jason's mom and tell him, Jason, put down the weapon, it's all over. But he kind of he believes it for a second, sees the severed head, and then has to go right back after it. And another Easter egg I meant to point out earlier, too, was same scene when Paul mentions her psychology major or whatever, her car is having trouble starting. So when Jason originally started chasing her, she can't get her car going. Just little details like that I really enjoyed. And Jason takes this gnarly machete straight through the shoulder, and they unmask him and kind of get a look at him. And Paul came back at this point, and we get to the point where they make it back home, and you think someone's about to bust through the doors, and it ends up being the little dog that they thought they lost. And it adds like this music that doesn't really fit, like this weird comfort sounding music, which you know a jump scare is coming. And reminiscent of the original, Jason comes diving through the window again. And this is the one time we get this look of Jason with the long hair and beard. And he just rips her through the window, which one of my favorite scenes. It looks so badass. But something I do not like about this movie is the very ending. She kind of comes to, and I think they meant it to be like a dream sequence where she's leaving on the stretcher. Just cuts to that, like, where's Paul? Where's Paul? And it's like, well, what did Jason do to Jenny? And is Paul alive? And, you know, is the dog alive? You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's the shit I question with this. And it's like, I get what they were going for, and it's kind of similar to part one. I think it was a little more effective in part one because it's easier to imagine that you could daydream that or have a nightmare of getting pulled into the water compared to everything that happened at the end of part two. But that's probably one of my only gripes. Maybe this movie just hits a little better after watching how slow part one was. But if you guys are going to watch all of my reviews of these movies one by one, you're going to get pretty much a spoiler of my rankings because I already have them in my head, and I'm kind of low-key hoping they might change a little bit just for something a little more interesting. But I'll say it right now, this is one of my favorites in the entire franchise. I really don't have much bad to say about it. Honestly, one thing I could gripe about is like replaying what happened in the beginning, but a lot of horror movies do that. That's kind of like a Phantasm move right there. Or Friday the 13th, that was first. But yeah, I really like this movie. I think maybe some kills could have been better. I know they cut a lot out. I always like the soundtrack. I guess maybe, I don't know. I can't really think of too much I really dislike. Maybe it's just because of how fast it goes. It just hits you just like that. You know, I guess maybe the ending was a little flaky for me. But, you know, spoiler alert again, I pretty much love all of these Friday the 13th movies. It's going to be hard for me to nitpick some stuff I really don't like. I'm sure once I turn this camera off, I'll think of something I should have said. But this is pretty much an all-around fun movie, a classic slasher. And yeah, I love this one. But other than that, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this one right here. And hell, let me know what your favorite Friday the 13th movie is right off the bat. Let me know down there. And like I said, feel free to do your own rankings. I'm sure a lot of people have plans to do their own stuff online. If you got the set, you know, Instagram, whatever, take a picture, post on there with your rankings, tag me in it, Killer Pizza Video, add me on there if you'd like. Like, comment, subscribe, share these videos, let people know, hey, this asshole from Michigan is wearing a damn Halloween shirt reviewing Friday the 13th movies all October. And I'd appreciate that. But other than that, see you guys tomorrow for Friday the 13th, Part 3, Blood, Guts, Gore. I'll check you guys next time.